The war had ended, but peace did not feel peaceful. Commander Ethan Cross, a tall man with tired eyes and a scar across his left cheek, stood on the balcony of the alien capital city of Vetra Prime. The sky shimmered in purple and blue waves, glowing softly like a living ocean above the clouds. The air smelled of new rain and metal dust. Below him, alien crowds chanted his name in strange accents. Cruz. Cruz, their voices echoing through the marble towers. He did not smile. He never liked celebrations, especially after war. Too many had died to make this moment possible. Ethan had led the human fleet that broke the Crack's dominion, a brutal empire that had enslaved hundreds of worlds, including Vetra Prime. The battle had lasted 6 months. Millions were gone. But at last, the Vetran people were free. Now they wanted to thank him. A Vetran soldier approached and bowed deeply, his armor shimmering with crystal light. "Commander Cross," he said in a calm voice, "the High Council is ready. They await you in the Hall of Radiance." Ethan nodded and followed. The hall was vast and filled with floating lanterns of silver fire. At its center sat 12 alien counselors, their eyes glowing faintly in the dim light. They spoke in deep musical tones that vibrated through the air. "Commander Ethan Cross of Earth," the eldest counselor said, his voice like wind through glass. "You have saved our people from chains. You destroyed the Dominion's fortress and gave us back our son. For this, we owe you a gift, one that carries the highest honor of our world." Ethan frowned slightly. "You don't owe me anything," he replied softly. "I didn't fight for rewards. I fought because it was right." The counselors exchanged confused glances. To them, refusing a gift was unthinkable. The eldest continued, "Still, it is our way. We have chosen a gift worthy of your name. Bring them in." The great doors opened and 2 figures stepped forward. They looked almost human, tall, graceful, and glowing faintly under the hall's light. Their skin shimmered like silver glass, and their hair flowed in shades of deep violet. Their eyes were bright and clear, the color of distant stars. They wore simple silk robes, and though they moved with elegance, there was tension in every step. The crowd whispered. Ethan's heart sank as he realized who they were. The counselor spoke proudly. "These are the twin daughters of our late queen, Princess Lyra and Princess Seren. They are now yours. A royal gift to the hero of our freedom." Ethan froze. He looked at the 2 sisters, young, silent, and standing side by side. Lyra's gaze was sharp and guarded, while Seren's was calm but filled with sadness. They did not speak. Ethan stepped forward slowly. "Yours?" he repeated, his tone darkening. "What do you mean by that?" The counselor blinked. "In our tradition, when a savior frees the crown, the royal family gives its heirs to serve the liberator. It is an ancient custom of loyalty and honor. They will serve you for life." The hall went quiet. Ethan stared at them, then shook his head. "No," he said firmly. "That's not how humans work. I don't want servants. I don't want anyone forced to follow me." The counselors began murmuring among themselves. The eldest said, "Commander, to reject a royal gift is to reject our respect. It will dishonor us." Ethan sighed. His jaw tightened. He looked at the sisters again. Their faces were unreadable, though Seren's hands trembled slightly. Lyra, the older by minutes, raised her chin with quiet defiance. He spoke softly but clearly. "I mean no disrespect, but freedom can't begin with chains, no matter how pretty they look." The hall remained silent. Finally, one of the counselors said coldly, "Then take them for the night. Think on our words. Tomorrow we shall speak again." Ethan didn't argue. He only nodded and turned away. The twin sisters followed him quietly down the long crystal corridor. The guest quarters given to him were large and filled with alien light. When the door closed, the silence grew heavy. Ethan turned to face the sisters. "You don't have to stay here," he said gently. "You're free to go wherever you wish." Lyra's eyes narrowed. "Free?" she repeated, her voice calm but cold. "Where would we go, human? Our palace is dust. Our people serve those same counselors who just sold us, and the galaxy hates our kind. Tell me, what does freedom mean when there's nowhere to run?" Ethan had no answer. He looked away. Serene stepped forward, her tone softer. "We know your words mean kindness, but we are not used to kindness. We were raised to obey. If we leave, we have no place. If we stay, we are what they made us. I don't know which is worse." Ethan sighed deeply and rubbed his forehead. Then stay here for now. You're safe here. I'll make sure of that. He left them the room and sat alone in the corridor outside, staring at the alien stars beyond the glass wall. His mind was full of noise. Voices of his dead crew, the cries of victory, the weight of command. He had fought so long for justice, and yet here he was, surrounded by more injustice disguised as honor. He thought about the sisters. They were victims of their own culture's rules, and somehow they had been handed to him as a prize. It made his stomach twist. Later that night he heard soft movement inside the room. He peeked through the half-open door. The sisters were sitting together by the window, sharing a small meal from a single plate. Lyra was quiet, her eyes fixed on the stars, while Serene smiled faintly as she handed her sister a piece of bread. They looked so fragile, yet something about their presence filled the room with quiet strength. Ethan turned away. He could not watch. It felt wrong, as if he was spying on people who had already lost too much. He walked out to the balcony again. The alien moon hung low, bright as a pearl. He whispered to himself, I didn't fight for this. Not for slaves dressed like gifts. He remembered the war, the screams over the radio, the smell of burning metal, the promise he made to himself that if humanity ever became like the Dominion, he would walk away from it all. He clenched his fists. No, he would not become like them. The next morning, before dawn, he called his second-in-command. Lieutenant Harris threw the communicator. Prepare the Horizon Dawn, he ordered. We're leaving orbit as soon as the engines are ready. Sir, Harris replied, confused. The Council expects you to attend the final ceremony. Ethan's voice was firm. They can keep their ceremony and their rewards. After cutting the link, he turned toward the sisters' room. Lyra was already standing at the door, awake, dressed, and watching him silently. Serene stood beside her, holding a small silver box. Ethan said quietly, You two should decide where you want to go. I'll take you there. Serene blinked. You mean you would let us go? Just like that? Yes, Ethan said simply. Because no one gave you to me. Not really, and I won't keep what isn't mine. For a long time, none of them spoke. Finally, Lyra asked in a soft voice, Why? Ethan looked at her and said, Because I know what it feels like to lose everything, and I won't be the reason you lose more. The sisters exchanged glances. For the first time, something gentle flickered in Lyra's eyes. Trust, maybe, or confusion mixed with hope. Serene smiled faintly and whispered, Thank you, Commander Cross. He nodded, his face calm but his heart heavy. Get ready, he said. We leave soon. As he turned away, he didn't know that this decision, the choice to free two sisters he barely knew, would change the fate of more than one world. The story of the human who refused a royal gift was just beginning. The next sunrise on Vetra Prime was soft and golden, falling across the silver city like melted light. Commander Ethan Cross stood near the landing platform of his ship, Horizon Dawn, while the twin alien sisters walked beside him in silence. The hum of engines and the faint sound of chanting drifted through the air. Hundreds of Vetrans gathered below the platform, waiting for the farewell ceremony. The High Council stood in front of them, their crystal robes gleaming under the morning light. Ethan could see the unease on their faces. The news had spread fast. The human hero was refusing the royal gift. In their eyes, this was not just strange, it was a deep insult. Counselor Verrill, the eldest among them, raised his long hand and said loudly, Commander Cross of Earth, before you depart our world, we ask one last time, will you not accept what our people have offered in gratitude? The crowd went silent. Ethan looked at the twin sisters. Lyra's eyes were cold and proud. Serene looked nervous but calm, her hands folded before her. Then Ethan faced the council and spoke clearly, his voice steady as the engine's hum. I thank you for your honor, he said. But humans don't take people as rewards. We fight for freedom, not ownership. I cannot accept them as gifts. The words echoed through the hall. Murmurs filled the air. Some aliens gasped. Others bowed their heads in disbelief. No one had ever rejected a royal offering before. Counselor Verrill's eyes narrowed. Do you mean to shame us, Commander? These princesses are symbols of loyalty and respect. Ethan's tone remained calm. Then show that loyalty by treating them as your equals, not your property. Freedom means nothing if it is only for some. His translator repeated the words in the Vatran tongue, and the silence grew heavier. Lyra stepped forward suddenly. Her voice, sharp and commanding, cut through the quiet. "Enough," she said. "He is right." The council turned in shock. Even Seren stared at her sister, surprised. Lyra continued, "We are not things to be traded. We are daughters of Vetra. If this man, this human, sees us as free, then perhaps he understands freedom better than our own council does." The words hit like thunder. The council members froze, their pride wounded, their authority questioned. Viral hissed, "Princess Lyra, you forget your place." She looked at him coldly. "I remember it too well," she said. Ethan could see the anger building among the counselors. He stepped forward and said, "Enough. I don't want to start another war. I'm leaving peacefully. They can stay if they wish or come with me. The choice is theirs." He turned toward the sisters. "It's your decision," he said softly. Seren looked at her sister, unsure. Lyra hesitated, her pride fighting against fear. Then without a word, she walked toward Ethan. Serene followed a moment later. Together, they stood beside the human commander. Ethan gave a small nod to his crew. "Take us home." The Horizon Dawn lifted off, its engines roaring, leaving behind a city that had fallen silent in disbelief. Inside the ship, the mood was tense. The twin sisters sat in the observation deck, staring at the stars. Lyra's arms were crossed. "You shouldn't have done that," she said quietly. Ethan looked up from the console. "What, freed you?" She frowned. "No. Challenge the council. They don't forgive shame. They'll come after you." Ethan gave a half smile. "They can try. Humans are good at surviving anger." Seren giggled softly, breaking the tension. "He's not afraid of anything," she said, looking at her sister. Lyra sighed. "He should be. Pride makes the council dangerous." Ethan leaned against the wall. "I've faced worse than pride," he said. "But I'll admit I don't understand your people's customs." Seren turned toward him. "Our customs were made in fear," she said gently. "Long ago, our rulers promised loyalty to anyone who freed us from war. That promise turned into a law. Now, even if we want freedom, we are bound by that law." Ethan listened carefully. "Then maybe it's time someone broke that law." Lyra looked at him sharply. "You think one man can change our culture?" Ethan's eyes softened. "No, but maybe two brave sisters can." Lyra stared at him for a long time, her silver eyes unreadable. Then she turned back to the stars. "You speak like a dreamer, human." "Maybe," Ethan said, "but dreams built every world we have." 2 days later, while traveling through the Outer Rim, the Horizon Dawn received a distress signal. It was faint and broken, coming from a nearby trade convoy. Ethan sat up straight at the control deck. "Signal analysis," he ordered. Lieutenant Harris replied, "It's civilian code, sir." "They're under attack, pirates." Ethan clenched his jaw. "Set course to intercept." "Prepare defense systems." Lyra and Seren entered the bridge. Serene asked softly, "You're going to help them?" "Of course," Ethan said. "No one gets left behind out here." The Horizon Dawn dropped out of warp near a ring of shattered moons. There among the debris, 3 small cargo ships were being hunted by pirate vessels. Red plasma flashes tore through space. "Pirate flagship identified." "Corin the Blade," Harris said grimly. "A known raider, dangerous." Ethan's expression hardened. "We've met his kind before." He turned to the crew. "Battle stations." The sisters stood behind him, watching as the ship prepared for combat. Lyra's eyes followed the tactical screens, studying the enemy formation. "Their ships are too close together," she murmured. "If you strike here," she pointed at the center cluster, "you can disable their core network." Ethan looked at her in surprise. "You understand battle formations?" Lyra's tone was calm. "Our mother taught us strategy before the war. Royals were trained to command fleets." Ethan nodded. "Then you're welcome on the bridge. Let's see what your training can do." He gave the order to fire. The Horizon Dawn moved like lightning, its cannons firing precise bursts of plasma. Lyra's quick thinking cut through enemy lines. Serene focused on the ship's energy core, balancing the reactors as the shields flickered under enemy fire. For the first time since the war, Ethan felt something he hadn't felt in years. Hope. Humans and aliens fighting side by side, not out of debt or duty, but choice. The battle ended swiftly. The pirate fleet broke apart, their flagship exploding in a cloud of fire and debris. The rescued convoy sent a signal of thanks before jumping to safety. Cheers erupted on the Horizon Dawn. Even Lyra allowed herself a small, proud smile. Ethan turned to her. "You just saved a lot of lives," he said. She lifted her chin. "We only did what needed to be done," Serene added with a soft laugh. "You see, Commander, freedom doesn't mean weakness." Ethan smiled. "No, it doesn't. It means standing up when you could walk away." That night, the ship drifted quietly through space. Most of the crew rested. Ethan stood on the observation deck again, watching the stars spin slowly. Lyra and Seren joined him. Seren spoke first. "You could have left us. You could have stayed silent at the council. Why risk everything?" Ethan thought for a moment. "Because if I don't stand for what's right, then all the battles I fought mean nothing." Lyra studied his face. "You are strange for a soldier," she said. "You don't seek power." Ethan smiled faintly. "Power destroys more than it saves. I'd rather build something that lasts, like trust." Serene's voice was quiet. "Then maybe, Commander. We are lucky you were the one they chose." Lyra glanced at her sister, then looked back at Ethan. "The council will come for us. You know that." "I know," he said. "And I'll be ready." The stars reflected in their eyes as silence filled the room. For the first time, the twin princesses began to believe that perhaps this human, this simple, stubborn man from a small blue world, was not their captor, but their chance to truly understand freedom. And though none of them knew it yet, the war they had escaped was only the beginning of a new battle, one for the meaning of loyalty, honor, and choice among the stars. The Horizon Dawn sailed through the dark edge of the galaxy, its engines humming softly. Commander Ethan Cross stood on the bridge, his hands behind his back, watching the stars drift by. The recent battle with pirates had shaken the crew, but victory had lifted their hearts. Still, Ethan could not rest. He knew this peace was thin as glass. The Veteran Council would not forgive his defiance. He could almost feel their anger chasing him across the stars. The twin sisters, Lyra and Seren, had begun to adapt to life aboard the ship. The crew respected them, though they still stared sometimes in quiet awe. Their silver skin shimmered under the artificial lights, and their calm manners gave a strange grace to the cold metal halls. Lyra had taken a place beside Ethan during daily briefings, offering advice on navigation and defense strategy. Serene spent her hours in the engineering bay, fascinated by human machines and power systems. The two were opposites, Lyra sharp and commanding, Seren gentle and curious. Yet both carried the same quiet sadness, the memory of a lost world. One morning, alarms rang across the bridge. The sound echoed through every deck. Multiple ships on long-range scanners, Lieutenant Harris shouted. "They're closing fast." Ethan moved to the command console. "Identification?" "Unknown signals," Harris said. "But their drive signatures match Veteran warships." Ethan's jaw tightened. So it had begun. Lyra entered the bridge, her eyes narrowing as she saw the readings. "It's them," she said quietly. "The Council's fleet. They're coming to take us back." Seren, who followed close behind, whispered, "They'll destroy your ship if you resist." Ethan turned to her, his voice calm but firm. "Then we'll make them understand we're not the enemy." The comms crackled to life. A deep voice spoke in the alien language filled with authority and pride. The translator converted it into English. "Commander Ethan Cross of Earth, by order of the Veteran High Council, surrender the Royal Sisters immediately. Failure to comply will be treated as an act of war." The bridge fell silent. All eyes turned to Ethan. He pressed a button to respond. "This is Commander Cross. The princesses are free. I will not hand them over like property. If you come in peace, we can talk. If not," he paused, "then you'll find out what humans do when freedom is threatened." Lyra looked at him, surprise flickering in her eyes. Serene's hands trembled, but she said nothing. The alien fleet did not answer with words. It answered with weapons. The first volley hit the Horizon Dawn like thunder. Energy blasts flared across the shields, shaking the decks. Lights flickered, and the ship's hull groaned under the force. "Shields down to 70%. Harris shouted. Ethan gritted his teeth. "Return fire, non-lethal rounds only. I don't want blood if we can avoid it." The Horizon Dawn's cannons fired bright arcs of blue light, cutting through the void. The shots hit the enemy ship's shields, sending sparks of energy scattering into space. Lyra rushed to the tactical screen. "They're forming a ring around us," she said. "They'll try to trap us and board the ship." Ethan nodded. "Then we'll break the ring. Target their engines, not their hulls." Siren ran to the power console. Reactor stability dropping, she said. We can't take much more. Ethan glanced at her. Do what you can. I trust you. The battle raged. The Horizon Dawn moved like a wounded hawk. Darting between massive ships that fired from all sides, Lyra directed the gunners with precision, predicting enemy movements before they happened. Siren rerouted power to the shields, her silver hands glowing faintly as she worked. For every hit they took, the human crew gave 2 back. Yet the numbers were against them. 10 enemy ships surrounded one. The air filled with smoke, sparks, and the sound of alarms. Suddenly, the ship's hull shuddered violently. Harris yelled, "We've lost port thrusters." Ethan slammed his hand on the console. "Emergency repairs. Lyra, plot us a way out." Lyra stared at the readings, then looked at him. "There's only one path. Through their command ship." Ethan frowned. "That's suicide." She met his gaze. "Not if we move fast enough." He hesitated for a second, then nodded. "Do it." The Horizon Dawn dove toward the heart of the enemy formation. The crew braced themselves as the ship's engines roared. Laser fire streaked past the windows like glowing rain. Serene's voice came through the intercom, steady but strained. Power diverted from secondary systems to engines. "You have full thrust, but only for a short time." Ethan gripped the controls. "That's all I need." They cut straight toward the largest veteran vessel, the command ship. Its cannons turned, firing bursts of energy, but Ethan was faster. He twisted the Horizon Dawn between the blasts, sliding past debris and fire. Lyra shouted coordinates. "There, aim for their reactor vent." Ethan pressed the trigger. The ship's plasma cannons fired. A blinding flash followed. The enemy flagship's shields collapsed, its systems flickering. The Horizon Dawn shot past it, breaking through the ring. "Open space ahead," Harris cried. Cheers erupted across the bridge. For a moment, victory seemed close, but the relief didn't last. On the radar, new signals appeared. More veteran ships jumping in. Dozens of them. Ethan's face hardened. "They won't stop. Not until they get you back." Lyra looked down. "We never wanted this," she said quietly. "Our freedom is costing too much." Ethan turned to her. "Don't say that. You didn't start this." "They did." Seren's soft voice came through the speakers from engineering. "Commander, the reactor is overheating. If we push it more, it could melt down." Ethan knew the risk, but if they slowed down, they'd be caught. Lyra stepped beside him. "Let me help," she said. He shook his head. "You've done enough," her eyes flashed. "No, Commander. I'm not asking." She left the bridge before he could stop her. Ethan cursed under his breath and called through the comms, "Lyra, report!" In the engineering bay, Lyra joined her sister. The hum of energy was deafening. Blue light rippled across the walls as the ship's reactor strained. Seren looked up, alarmed. "What are you doing here?" "Helping you," Lyra said. "We can stabilize it together." The two clasped hands. A faint glow spread between them, their psychic link, something humans didn't fully understand. Their combined energy flowed into the core, calming the violent surges. Ethan watched the readings from the bridge. Power levels steadied. The ship's engines cooled. He exhaled in relief. "You did it," he whispered, but his relief turned to worry when Harris said, "Sir." Energy drain increasing. "It's coming from them." Ethan's eyes widened. "They're feeding their life force into the reactor." He ran from the bridge. In the engineering bay, he found them kneeling near the glowing core, weak but still holding on. Their silver skin flickered like fading light. "Stop," Ethan shouted. "You'll burn yourselves out." Lyra looked up at him with tired eyes. "We can't stop now. The ship needs balance." Seren smiled faintly. "Just a little longer." Ethan moved forward and grabbed their hands. "You've done enough." "You gave me your trust. That's more than I deserve." The core light dimmed slightly. The ship steadied. The danger passed. The sisters collapsed, exhausted but alive. Ethan caught them before they hit the floor. He carried them to the med bay, his heart heavy but full of gratitude. Hours later, as they rested in the recovery pods, Ethan stood beside them. Harris entered quietly. "We made it, sir." "The fleet stopped chasing once we crossed into neutral space." Ethan nodded slowly. "Good. Let them go home." Harris looked at the sleeping sisters. "They saved us all, didn't they?" Ethan smiled faintly. "They did. And they shouldn't have had to." He turned toward the stars outside the window. His reflection showed a tired man who had seen too much war. But for the first time in years, he also saw hope. The twin sisters had changed something in him, and somewhere, deep in his heart, he knew this was only the beginning of a greater fight. Not against enemies, but against the chains that called themselves tradition. The horizon dawn drifted through a quiet sector of space. Stars gleamed like scattered diamonds, and the hum of the ship's engines was the only sound breaking the calm. Commander Ethan Cross walked the corridors, thinking about the Vatran Council and the storm he had left behind. The council would not forgive him easily. To them, the twin princesses were property, a symbol of honor, and he had shattered that symbol. Lyra and Seren were still recovering in the med bay. Their silver skin glimmered faintly in the soft light, and their breathing was even and steady. For the first time, they seemed at peace. Ethan leaned against the doorway, looking at them. "You should get some rest." "You've earned it," he said softly. Seren smiled faintly, her violet eyes meeting his. "You make freedom feel safe," she whispered. Ethan shook his head. "You made it safe yourselves." "I only let you choose." Lyra stirred but remained silent. Her eyes were closed, but the tension in her brow told Ethan that her mind was still turning over the events of the past days. He sighed and stepped back. "I'll give you time," he said. "We're not running from anyone yet, but we need to plan for what comes next." The calm did not last long. Hours later, a new signal appeared on the long-range scanner. Ethan immediately recognized the signature, the Vatran Council fleet. Their numbers were larger this time, a full battle fleet. Lyra, now fully awake, stared at the readings. "They didn't give up," she said softly. Serene's hands trembled slightly. "They're coming to force us back," she said. Ethan turned toward them, his face calm. "Then we make them understand that freedom is not a thing to take." The crew braced as the Horizon Dawn systems prepared for another battle. But Ethan had no intention of starting a war he didn't want. "This time," he said, "we fight smart, not hard. We can't destroy them, they are our people." Lyra nodded. "We can use our knowledge. I know their formation patterns. We can avoid damage and negotiate once we show them we can't be taken." Seren joined them on the bridge, her silver hands brushing over the console. "And I can maintain the power systems. If they push too hard, I can stabilize the ship like before." Ethan glanced at the twins. "Then we fight together." The council fleet arrived at the edge of the sector. Their ships blocked the Horizon Dawn's path, forming an invisible wall of energy shields. Viral's voice crackled through the comms. "Commander Cross, surrender immediately. The princesses belong to the High Council. Resistance is forbidden." Ethan's voice was steady. "I will not hand over what is already free. We can talk, or you can leave." The council responded with force, sending a wave of energy blasts toward the Horizon Dawn. Shields flared and alarms rang. Ethan gave the order. "Non-lethal countermeasures. Target engines and navigation, not weapons. We don't want casualties." Lyra directed the gunners, analyzing enemy movement with precise calculations. Serene stabilized the reactor, diverting power to shields and engines. Together, they moved in perfect harmony with the human crew. The Horizon Dawn dodged and weaved between enemy fire, striking back at the council ship's engines. The council's formation wavered, confusion spreading among their ranks. Harris turned to Ethan. "They're slowing." "It's working," Ethan nodded. "Good. Keep pressure, but no permanent damage. We are showing strength, not cruelty." The twin princesses, working side by side, coordinated the ship's maneuvers. Lyra's tactical mind predicted enemy movements before they happened, and Seren's engineering skill kept the Horizon Dawn stable under extreme stress. The crew watched in awe as two young aliens held a warship steady against a full fleet. After hours of careful maneuvering, the council fleet retreated slightly. Ethan activated the comms. "High Council of Vatra," he said. "We are not enemies, but we will defend our freedom and the freedom of these sisters. You can continue this chase or you can see reason." There was silence. Then Viral's voice came, lower and calmer than before. "Commander Cross, your courage is impressive, but you have broken tradition. You force us to reconsider our honor." Lyra and Seren looked at each other. The twins realized their words and actions had begun to change not only the human commander's destiny, but the culture of their own people. Seren whispered softly to Lyra, "Do you see?" "He is right. Freedom is not shameful. It is strength." Lyra nodded slowly. "We will not return as captives." Ethan gave a small smile. "Good, now we can talk like equals." Negotiations began. The Horizon Dawn held its position in neutral space far from any planetary system. Ethan spoke not as a soldier but as a human who had fought for justice. You cannot give people as gifts, he said, and you cannot demand obedience from those who are free. If Vetra wants to survive, it must honor the choices of its own citizens. The counselors listened, though their pride still burned beneath calm faces. Lyra stepped forward, her voice steady. Commander Cross is right. We are not property. We are citizens of Vetra. We will not obey chains that were never ours to wear, Serene added. We choose our own path. Let our people learn that freedom is stronger than fear. Beryl hesitated, then sighed. Perhaps there is wisdom in your words. Perhaps tradition must be tempered by reason. Ethan nodded slowly. Then let this be a start. Freedom given is a gift, but freedom taken is not. After the tense meeting, the council fleet withdrew. The Horizon Dawn and its human crew, along with Lyra and Seren, sailed through quiet stars. For the first time in weeks, Ethan allowed himself a small smile. The sisters had proven themselves not only in battle but in wisdom. They had taken responsibility for their freedom and chosen their path. And in doing so, they had shown Ethan that even in the galaxy's darkest times, courage and honor could shine brighter than any star. Later, as the ship drifted through a quiet nebula, Lyra sat beside Ethan in the observation deck. You did something none of your people expected, she said quietly. You refused a gift. You could have accepted us, but you didn't. Why? Ethan looked out at the swirling colors of gas and light. Because no one should ever be owned, he said simply. Not by law, not by tradition, not even by gratitude. Seren joined them, her expression calm and serene. And now we know the value of our own choices, she said softly. The three of them watched the nebula spin slowly in the darkness. The universe was vast and dangerous, yet the Horizon Dawn carried hope, courage, and the beginnings of a new way of thinking. Ethan knew the council would try again. They could never accept such defiance easily. But for now, the twins were free, and that freedom was a victory bigger than any battle. Lyra finally spoke, her voice steady and proud. We will fight for this freedom wherever we go, not as captives, but as equals. And perhaps we can help others understand the same. Ethan nodded. Then we have work to do. Serene smiled faintly, and for the first time the sisters felt safe in a universe that had always demanded obedience. Together with the human commander, they would face the challenges ahead, not as gifts, not as pawns, but as equals, free to choose their own destiny. The Horizon Dawn sailed onward, carrying not just a ship and a crew, but a message across the stars. Freedom is stronger than tradition, and courage is found in the choice to stand for what is right. And so the journey continued. The Horizon Dawn glided through the void, the stars stretching endlessly ahead. Commander Ethan Cross stood on the observation deck, hands resting on the railing. He had spent countless hours staring at space, pondering battles, strategies, and the weight of leadership. But now beside him the twins, Lyra and Seren, stood free, unbound by traditions that had once enslaved them. Lyra's silver hair shifted like liquid under the light, her eyes thoughtful. Serene, her younger sister, leaned slightly against the railing, watching distant nebulae swirl in vibrant colors. They had both changed. The battles, the flight, and the choices they had made with Ethan had forged something stronger than fear. Confidence. Do you ever wonder, Lyra asked quietly, what our world will think of us now? Ethan turned toward her. Some will be angry. Some will follow their hearts. But that doesn't matter. What matters is that you choose your own path. You made your own future, Serene smiled faintly. And we couldn't have done it without you. Ethan shook his head. No, you did it yourselves. I just didn't stand in your way. Lyra and Seren exchanged glances. There was gratitude, yes, but also the spark of something new. Understanding and perhaps even trust. Weeks passed. The Horizon Dawn became their sanctuary and their school. Lyra studied human tactics, learning to adapt her veteran military strategies to space beyond Vetra Prime. She practiced drills alongside Ethan, not as a subordinate but as a student and partner in thought. Seren, meanwhile, spent her time in engineering, learning the intricacies of human technology. She had a talent for improvisation, and the engineers quickly learned to respect her keen insight. Through their shared work, both sisters began to embrace the strength that came from choice, knowledge, and courage. They laughed, they argued, and they explored every corner of the ship. Though humans and Vatrans were different, they found harmony in their shared mission: survival, freedom, and understanding. Ethan watched them, quietly proud. These girls, once symbols of royal obedience, had become something far more important: allies, thinkers, and free beings. One day, the Horizon Dawn received another signal. This time it was from a distant sector, from a planet surrounded by debris and silent orbit. The distress call was weak, but Ethan's translator picked up faint human voices. "We can't leave them," he said, turning to the sisters. Lyra frowned. "Another fight? I thought we were done with fleets chasing us." Ethan shook his head. "This isn't about politics. It's people in danger. Someone has to help." Seren's eyes softened. "Then we help. That's who we are now." Together, the three of them led the Horizon Dawn toward the source. The planet below was a mining colony, small and scattered, its buildings damaged by an asteroid storm. Life signs were faint but detectable. Ethan's crew worked quickly, coordinating landing pods and rescue operations. Lyra and Seren supervised communications, ensuring stranded miners were accounted for. The sisters' natural authority made the humans follow directions without hesitation. Once on the surface, Ethan saw the devastation. Buildings lay in ruins and dust clouds rose from impact craters. The miners were frightened, tired, and hungry. "Commander," one shouted, waving. "We thought no one would come." Ethan smiled. "No one gets left behind. That's human rule, and now it's yours too if you choose." Lyra stepped forward, her voice calm and commanding. "Everyone stay calm. Follow our lead and you'll be safe." Serene handed water and supplies to the miners. "We're here," she said. "You're not alone." The twins moved with precision, showing courage and care. Their actions impressed the humans. They were not royalty or gifts, they were heroes in their own right. Ethan felt a deep sense of pride. Freedom, responsibility, and bravery were now their own, not dictated by birth or tradition. That evening, the Horizon Dawn lifted off, carrying the rescued miners into orbit. The planet receded below, scarred but alive. Ethan turned to Lyra and Seren. "You've done more than survive. You've saved others, and in doing so, you've proven what freedom truly means." Lyra's silver eyes shone faintly. "It feels different now," she said softly. "We are not bound by fear anymore. We can decide, we can act, and we can make a difference." Seren nodded. "And we have someone who trusts us, not commands us." Ethan smiled. "Trust is earned, not given. You've earned mine." For a moment, silence filled the observation deck. The three of them looked out at the endless stars. Each one was a reminder of the vastness of the universe and the countless choices yet to make. Days turned into weeks. The Horizon Dawn sailed through uncharted space. Along the way, Ethan, Lyra, and Seren helped planets rebuild after natural disasters, negotiated peace between warring settlements, and shared knowledge with civilizations that had never known the taste of freedom. The twins flourished in every challenge. Lyra's tactical brilliance saved colonies from potential disasters. Seren's engineering skill repaired ships that no human engineer had thought possible. And all the while, Ethan guided them not as a commander but as a teacher, mentor, and friend. The bond between human and alien sisters grew stronger, built not on duty or reward but on respect, trust, and shared experiences. One night, the three stood on the observation deck, watching a massive nebula swirl across space in shades of purple and gold. Lyra spoke first. "Do you think we'll ever return to Vatra Prime?" Ethan shrugged. "Maybe, but if you do, it won't be as captives. You'll go as free citizens, ambassadors of your own will." Seren smiled. "We've learned so much, but there is still more to see. More to do." Ethan nodded. "And the universe is waiting. For all of us." Lyra glanced at him, then at her sister. "You changed our lives, Ethan Cross. You didn't take what was offered. You didn't let fear decide. You gave us choice, that is rare." Ethan smiled faintly. "It's what any human would hope to do. But you, both of you, made the choice to live it." For the first time, Lyra's proud mask softened. Seren's gentle smile grew warmer. They had survived war, threats, and expectation. And now, in the quiet of the stars, they were truly free. Months later, the Horizon Dawn became more than a ship. It became a legend. Across sectors, word spread of the human commander who refused a royal gift and the twin alien sisters who had chosen freedom over tradition. Stories told of courage, wisdom, and the power of choice. Ethan, Lyra, and Seren sailed among the stars, helping those in need, challenging injustice, and showing that one person's decision could ripple across the galaxy. The sisters no longer lived in fear of being returned to chains. They trained, learned, and grew. Lyra's mind was sharper than ever, able to predict threats and advise leaders across planets. Seren's hands built machines that saved lives and inspired hope, and together they represented the very best of what a world could offer when tradition met reason, and fear gave way to courage. Ethan looked at them one evening, the nebula casting a soft glow over the observation deck. "I could have kept you safe by handing you back," he said quietly. "But freedom is never safe. It's something you protect, fight for, and live with." Lyra nodded. "And we choose to live it. With you if you'll have us." Seren smiled softly. "And we'll help others see that freedom is stronger than any chain." Ethan's heart swelled. For the first time in years, he felt truly at peace. Not because the war was over, not because the galaxy was calm, but because he had helped ignite a new light, a light that shone through fear, tradition, and expectation. The Horizon Dawn sailed on, carrying the human, the twins, and their crew into a galaxy that would never forget their courage, their choices, and the power of freedom. Somewhere in the stars, Ethan whispered softly, "You are free, and now the universe is too." The sisters smiled, their silver hair shimmering in the starlight. For the first time, they knew true freedom, a life lived by choice, courage, and honor. And as the Horizon Dawn moved forward, it left a message behind for all who would follow. Freedom is not given. It is chosen, and those who choose it are stronger than any chain. The galaxy, vast and endless, watched as humanity and aliens walked together, equals, unbound, and unafraid.